This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. Well, it's the end of the road, and it's time to talk about the greatest hits from episode 201 to 280 something, I think. I'm not sure where we ended up, but we're about to transition the speaking show to the selling show. Now, one interesting thing that I've noticed is that some of my favorite episodes and some of the episodes that have gotten the most downloads and the most comments and the most thank yous of all 300 or so episodes of The Speaking Show have really centered on sales to begin with. Isn't that interesting? So I'm going to take a walk down memory lane. I'm going to point out my very favorite episodes of The Speaking Show. Some have to do with sales, some don't, but what a great way to give The Speaking Show a big kiss and a big hug and a big thank you, and to usher in the new era, our new rebranding of The Selling Show, coming up in just a couple of episodes. Or it might be the next episode, or I'm not sure what we're doing, but it's coming soon, and it very well might be the next episode that you hear. We started the 200s with one of my favorite episodes, the awesome and amazing Ellen Melko Moore. And we were talking about how to be super tight on LinkedIn. And luckily, her company is called Super Tight LinkedIn. Ellen loves helping intentional entrepreneurs make the jump from local expert to world-class thought leader. And we had a far-ranging, fantastic conversation about all the crazy things that people are doing wrong on LinkedIn. Ellen is a brand specialization expert who will help you make your messaging and your prospecting and your value prop super tight, super narrow, super focused, and super valuable. Ellen has worked with hundreds of service-oriented entrepreneurs to create compelling and powerful brands through unique business offers and original content. Now, when we had our conversation, we talked about, and I want you to re-listen to all of these episodes, especially the episode here with Ellen, how to decommoditize yourself on LinkedIn, how to zero in on those prospects that have the magic combination, in Ellen's words, that are able to pay and eager to pay for what it is that you're selling. We call that ATP and ETP if you're one of the super tight cool kids. Anyway, making the right connection request. How to come across like a trusted advisor, not like a spammer, not like a salesperson, not like a goofball. Ellen's also going to share, when you re-listen to episode 201, about the LinkedIn algorithm and exactly why the LinkedIn algorithm is actually like the crappiest boyfriend you've ever had. We're going to talk a little bit about Ellen's backstory, how she discovered LinkedIn. We're going to talk about the belly fat of LinkedIn. I'm not going to give that one away. That's too juicy. And you're going to hear a really fun story about what Ellen calls the super tight couch. Not just how to have a super tight brand, not just how to have a super tight message on LinkedIn, not just how to do super tight prospecting, but what the heck is a super tight couch? And is it even comfortable? And does it come with pillows? And what's really going on? So you definitely want to tune in to episode 201. My next favorite in the 3rd century, we call 200 to 280 whatever, 290 whatever, we call this the 3rd century. So we did episode 100 was our first 100, our 1st century retrospective. Episode 200 was the last time that we did one of these retrospectives. And we're just south of episode 300. So this is technically our third century, our third batch of almost 100 episodes that I want to take a walk down memory lane and guide you to the best of the best. Next up, 222. 222, my friend Art Sobczak, how to get in, get heard, and get paid. Art Sobczak is a fantastically smart author, sales trainer, sales speaker, sales consultant. He has a philosophy and a book and a training program called Smart Calling. Smart Calling is the opposite of cold calling. Smart calling is what smart salespeople do. Cold calling is what peddlers and commoditized experts do. The difference is it's a blind call when you're doing cold calling. And it is a highly prepared, highly researched, highly relevant outreach when you're using smart calling. So, Art is a fantastic human being. He's a great friend. He's a really super smart sales trainer and sales consultant. Over the past 30 years, Art has helped salespeople say the right things to get through, get in, and sell, primarily using the phone. Art's a speaker, trainer, author, podcaster, lifelong salesperson. Art, in fact, received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals. He's written 5 books, and his flagship, Smart Calling, How to Eliminate the Fear, Failure, and Rejection from Cold Calling, is now in its 3rd edition, has sold tens of thousands of copies. It is one of the 2 sales books that I strongly, strongly recommend. So in this interview, when you wind back to 222, you're going to learn about the smart calling philosophy. You're going to learn that smart calling is based on what Art calls social engineering and how to leverage that social engineering into getting people to lower their shields, getting people to not be defensive, getting people to be open to talking with you about how you can help them. Art also talks about being proficient with LinkedIn as a research tool and how to set the initial call objective. We had a fantastic conversation about this. Most consultants, most experts, most salespeople, when they make an initial call and you say, well, what's the purpose of that call? They will tell you, I want to get them to buy. I want to sell them something. I want to get the check. I want to get the cash. And Art shows you exactly how and why that is completely the wrong objective and how you're trying to get married on the first date, and that's not how people buy, and that's not how people establish trust and establish relationships. Another part of the conversation when you wind back to episode 222, how all sales appointments are not created equal. And this is really, really important so you can start to prioritize and categorize your A's from your B's from your C's. Now, the reason that you hate cold calling, number 1, you're going in naked, you've got no research. And then number 2 is you don't know what that first 10 seconds of a sales call should sound like. In this episode, Art breaks down exactly what that first 10 seconds of a door-opening prospecting conversation should sound like. We also short-circuit the concept of rejection, and we get prospects into a cycle of committing to a series of micro-commitments to help your prospects take the next step and the next step and the next step down the sales process that you've created so that they don't go off the rails, they don't disappear, and they don't go into a black hole. I really love everything that Art and I talked about in episode 222. Next up, speaking of love, episode 224, I know, hot on the heels of 222, you wouldn't want to be the poor sap who's in 223. I'm not even sure who that is, but kidding, 223. You know we love you. You just didn't make the final cut for this episode. 224, speaking of love, my best buddy, Corey freaking Perlman. Corey freaking Perlman is the rock star of episode 224. We talked about smarter social media, especially for consultants and experts, who want to use social media the right way, which is to attract prospects and to attract prospect conversations. So we're going to talk about typical things that most consultants and experts and solo service professionals are doing completely wrong on social media, why it's wrong, and how to fix it. We're also going to talk in episode 224 with Corey freaking Perlman about one of his best philosophies, his most valuable strategies, which is really understanding your prospect. Understanding who they are, understanding where they gather, understanding what they want, understanding what they struggle with, and how to fish where the fish are. So you stop wasting time with tire kickers, goofballs, non-buyers, and a whole bunch of people who can say no to you, but do not have the authority to say yes. Corey also shares in episode 224 a really smart hybrid strategy on LinkedIn. You can see there's a pattern here with Ellen Melko Moore and then Art Subject talking about LinkedIn, my buddy Corey Perlman talking about LinkedIn. But Corey has a special twist on LinkedIn. I call it the hybrid online-offline strategy that really makes your whole LinkedIn prospecting and LinkedIn relationship building and LinkedIn introductions even more powerful than they are on their own. So how you can utilize existing connections to get introductions to prospects and also to make introductions to prospects, because that's the real secret power of LinkedIn is can you introduce your prospects to people who are going to be interesting and valuable for them. Another thing we talked about with Corey in episode 224 is how to convert your email list to LinkedIn connections and vice versa. There's people on your email list who are not on your LinkedIn first degree connections. And similarly, there are people who are your first degree LinkedIn connections who really need to also be added to your email list. How you can do that organically, ethically, with their permission, with their knowledge, and with their eagerness and with their enthusiasm. And we're also going to talk, because of course, Corey and I are bourbon buddies. We're both big fans of bourbon. I think he might have even got me into it. So I'm just going to blame Corey Perlman right here, even though we've known each other for 10 plus years and episode 224 is just in the last few months. You get the idea. Corey Perlman, I'm blaming you for my bourbon problem. Anyway, bourbon and best practices. I'm not going to spoil that. I'm not going to unpack that for you. You're going to have to go back and listen to episode 224. It will be incredibly worth your time, and then you'll know what bourbon and best practices really are. Moving right along. Man, the 220s were strong. 228, Webinar Mastery with my buddy John Schumacher. Episode 228. That's right, call sign 228. APB, patrol car 228, come in, 1 Adam 12, 1 Adam 12. John Schumacher is one of the smartest marketers, one of the smartest salespeople, one of the highest integrity, highest ethics human beings that I've come across, and he's a mensch. He's just an overall good guy. If you're not doing webinars and you want to learn how to do webinars right, and you want to also learn how to overcome any webinar resistance that you may have, you definitely want to go back and listen to episode 228. We're going to talk about what needs to be in a webinar and what does not. Specifically, a webinar that converts. You can do webinars till you're blue in the face. And 10 years ago, starting around 2012, I was doing webinars till I was blue in the face. Was it converting to sales? It was not. Why was it not converting to sales? Well, listen to episode 228. Listen to John's smart wisdom about high converting sales webinars, and you will understand all the crazy things that you're doing wrong, I'm doing wrong, that we're all doing wrong because we don't know any better. We're going to talk about the 5 phases of a webinar marketing and sales strategy, what they are, common mistakes in each of the 5 phases, and how to upgrade and improve the conversion between all 5 of those phases. This one, I'll give you a little sneak peek. Because I want you to go back and listen to John Schumacher, episode 228. What are the 5 phases? Phase number 1, get them to sign up. Phase number 2, get them to show up. Phase number 3, get them to stay to the end. Phase number 4, get them to take the call to action. Phase number 5, get them to buy. Get them to buy, get the credit card, make the sale, close the deal, book the demo, set the strategy session. Whatever it is that you want them to do, it's about pulling the trigger. And John unpacks everything that you need to do before and during and after the webinar to make sure that you dial in and optimize all 5 of those phases. So, getting people to sign up for your webinar in the first place, increasing attendance rates, how much teaching you should do versus how much inviting you should do, and then the right kinds of call to action and the right kinds of follow-up. Because it ain't over until it's over. If you stop marketing and stop selling when the webinar gets turned off, you are missing out on between 20 and 40% of your sales. So you don't want to do that. What do you want to do? Go back, listen to episode 228. Hey, good looking. Are you currently getting paid to speak? Would you like to ramp that up? We can help. Book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team at doitmarketing.com/call, and let's see what we might do together. The call is free, but the results may be priceless. Next up in our 3rd Century Hit Parade, episode 231, Lead Generation for Consultants with my buddy Tom Poland. 231, my friends, 231. Write it down, mark it down, grab a Sharpie, put it on your palm, 231. Tom Poland shares some tips on generating leads through webinars, why inbound marketing is better than outbound marketing, and what you should really be using your email list for, and a whole lot more. Tom Poland, one of the smartest, most insightful marketers. He's another guy that's in the Handsome Bald Man Club. So that's just another reason I love Tom Poland. And we're going to talk about how to activate your inbound engine. We're going to talk about one of the best ways to generate new client inquiries. And it's not what you think. This is kind of a Tom Poland proprietary method that he shares here in episode 231. We're going to talk about avoiding topic mismatches. When your topic does not match the type of prospect that you want to attract, whether this is a video, whether this is an email, whether it's a Facebook Live or a LinkedIn Live, whether it's a YouTube video, there are certain types of buyers that are attracted to certain types of topics, and there are certain types of topics that attract certain types of buyers. If you have not been connecting with the right type of buyer or the right level of buyer, listening to episode 231 with Tom Poland might very well tell you why. Now, we're also going to talk about, in an email, in a webinar, in a live stream, in a video, in a sales letter, how do you make the offer? How do you make the offer? How do you put something out there that is compelling, intriguing, highly relevant, and highly valuable, that your prospects would almost feel like an idiot if they said no to? And how to get crystal clear on your value proposition, and the biggest mistake that you could possibly make when you're producing content that is designed to convert. The other thing that I really loved about my interview with Tom here back in episode 231 is he talks about case studies. Case studies, success stories, testimonials, how to present them without bragging, and how to convert case studies into teaching moments that your clients are much more likely, your clients and your prospects are much more likely to remember and resonate with because they weren't from a bragging point of view, they were presented from a teaching point of view. So much rich goodies, gem after gem after gem, being dropped by my buddy Tom Poland, episode 231. All right, let's talk about episode 244. That's right, episode 244, The Trusted Leader with my buddy David Horsager. The Trusted leader. Horsager's just so brilliant. I don't know what to tell you. He's kind of so brilliant, he annoys me a little bit. So Horsager and I are in the $1 Million Speakers group from the National Speakers Association. He was in there decades before I was. Decades. So smart and so nice. He's also nice, everybody. And he's handsome. And he's young. And he's got a full head of hair. I'm not sure I should put Horsager in this best of. I mean, maybe, I'm getting jealous now just talking about him. All right. Anyway, 244. Gold nugget after gold nugget after gold nugget. The thing I love about this episode, and many of our episodes, frankly, at the speaking show, is vulnerability and openness. And David shares a lot of the bumps and the lumps and the lessons he learned along the way, all the things that he did wrong. And not only, hey, look how smart I am, but this was really hard for me. Here's what I learned, and here's how you can do it too. And he does this from a place of compassion and kindness and incredible intelligence and an incredible caring and incredible integrity. Now, his whole topic is trust. He's got a fantastic book out there called The Trust Edge. He has another fantastic new book that came out called The Trusted Leader, and that's what we talk about during episode 244, but we talk about his whole journey, about David's humble beginnings, about how he built his empire, not just piece by piece, but literally brick by brick by brick to make the walls, to make the pieces, to make the houses, to make the empire. How he went from a motivational speaking business to a truly diversified expert business. We're going to talk about the Trust Edge Leadership Institute, how he now equips and empowers hundreds and hundreds of other coaches and consultants to deliver his work in a licensing type of situation. And the other thing I want you to listen for when you go back and you listen to 244 with David Horsager, he is so committed to this topic of trust and to solving trust problems. He says, my lens on the world is that every problem is a trust problem. Every challenge can be sourced to a trust challenge. Every issue is a trust issue. And he has the smarts and the analysis and the context to make that case. So one of the reasons that we're moving from the speaking show and a marketing focus to the selling show and a sales focus is that just like Horsager believes that every issue is a trust issue, I have now deeply and profoundly come to believe and have confirmed working with thousands of clients. There's over 1,800 individual clients that we've worked with up to this point, that every issue in our world is a sales issue. Every challenge is a sales challenge. Every problem is a sales problem. So that's one of the reasons that we are moving this aircraft carrier called Do It Marketing over into the lane of sales and selling for solo B2B experts. So much sales training is based on a corporate sales environment, not an entrepreneurial sales environment, and not necessarily even a small business sales environment. And then 95% of small business sales advice doesn't really work for consultants and executive coaches and experts and trainers and speakers. So we want to own that mountaintop. And we already do own that mountaintop in our programs and with our clients. But moving into the selling show, we want to share that as widely and broadly and publicly and loudly as possible. So even clients who choose not to work with us for whatever reason, we are still helping them for free with the selling show and all the episodes that we have coming up. So anyway, getting back to Horsager and 244, every issue is a trust issue. Welcome to our world here at Do It Marketing. Every issue is a sales issue. Every issue is a sales issue. What a great episode. Wowza. Tell you what, if you want to ramp up your revenue as an expert who speaks professionally, you should really check out our free online training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. All right, let's see. We're going to round out the roundup. Episode 275. 275, Mark Randolph, That Will Never Work. That Will Never Work is the title of Mark Randolph's podcast. We had a fantastic conversation. In case the name Mark Randolph is not ringing a bell with you, it should, and after listening to 275, it will. He is best known as the co-founder and first CEO of Netflix. But Mark's career as an entrepreneur spans more than 4 decades. He's founded or co-founded half a dozen other successful startups, including most recently Looker Data Sciences, which was sold to Google in 2019 for $2.6 billion. That's billion with a B. He is currently mentoring a handful of other early stage companies, and he's advised hundreds of other entrepreneurs. He's an active seed investor in startups all over the world. He's the author of the international best-selling memoir, That Will Never Work, The Birth of Netflix and the Amazing Life of an Idea, and the host of the new podcast, That Will Never Work, where he dispenses advice, encouragement, and tough love to struggling entrepreneurs. Man, oh man, another tremendous human being. You know, I think the pattern here of the best of is not only are these folks brilliant marketers and fantastically successful entrepreneurs and really incredible salespeople, they're just really incredible people. And so Mark and I talk about how do you stay humble after a $2.6 billion exit? What do you do with your time? I mean, what more do you have left to aspire to? You literally now have more money than you can ever spend. So what do you do with your time, your money, your energy, your creativity? We're also going to talk about how to take an entrepreneurial idea from idea into reality. We're also going to talk about one of my favorite topics. And this topic is not talked about nearly enough. But Mark and I had a great conversation about this during episode 275, the role of the entrepreneurial spouse. God bless the entrepreneurial spouse. That's all I'm saying. How do you achieve balance between work and home? How do you tell your spouse, honey, I love you, I'm going to prioritize you, but I also need your support for when I can't do that? We're going to talk about how to start on a small scale. We're going to go behind the scenes with Mark once again about the process of writing his book and producing his podcast. I'm also going to ask him some deep questions about, dude, walk me through the emotional roller coaster of selling a company to Google. Give me the emotional temperature of what it's like to not only ask for, but then to receive and to hold in your hand a check for $2.6 billion. Whew, unbelievable. We talked on a couple of more topics. We talked about focusing on quality relationships, which Mark holds incredibly valuable and incredibly central to his success, and a strategy I'm not going to spill the beans on called power commenting. That's right, power commenting. All of that with the amazing Mark Randolph, episode 275. The love train continues. Episode 280. Episode 280, Evergreen Webinars with Melissa Kwan. Now, this was a happy circumstance. I got referred to Melissa. We were looking at a new webinar platforms. And if you know anything about evergreen webinar platforms, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say before eWebinar, which is Melissa's company that she co-founded, before eWebinar, every other evergreen webinar platform sucked. It just sucked. How do I know? We've used all of them. We're not going to name names. We don't want to get sued. We do want a sponsorship, though, from eWebinar. So, Melissa, if you're listening, hey, couple bucks, maybe a cheeseburger, box of donuts, something here. We love eWebinar. I got introduced to Melissa, didn't know who she was, never heard of eWebinar. I was on her website. She jumps into live chat while I'm watching their evergreen webinar. And that's how this relationship started. So Melissa is the co-founder and CEO of eWebinar, an automated webinar solution that helps customer success teams deliver personalized training and onboarding at scale. And this is such a cool platform. It combines pre-recorded webinar video with live chat, real-time interactions, downloads, resources. Everything is in a semi-live environment. eWebinar delivers the perfect webinar every time without you necessarily having to be there. And Melissa knows this because she has spent over a decade building startups, and she specializes in large enterprise sales, business development, and strategic partnerships, all of which she was looking for webinar solutions. She did not find one that met her needs. And so she and her technical co-founder created the eWebinar platform. Now, shameless plug, if you want a personal experience of this, go on to our web training, which is simply doitmarketing.com/webinar. doitmarketing.com/webinar. That is the eWebinar platform. When you go, you're going to sign in, you're going to experience the live or semi-live webinar experience. You're going to see some of the interaction. You're going to see some of the resources. You're going to see some of the chat capabilities. And heck, I might be live. I might be on there in the chat, chatting you up. So have some fun with that. Pop over to doitmarketing.com/webinar and you will see eWebinar in action. Now, back to our interview, episode number 280. We talked about, with Melissa, what are some of the problems in the evergreen webinar world? How can we make a quote unquote static webinar come to life even when you're not there? How can we make a webinar, especially a sales webinar, or a webinar that's designed to book more demos, appointments, inquiries, leads, a lead generating webinar? How can we make that a more interactive experience? And then we're also going to talk, and this is also really important, especially if you're used to doing live webinars, what are the mentality differences between live and pre-recorded? And then we're going to go behind the scenes and kind of reveal behind the scenes, pull back the curtain on the development of eWebinar and what Melissa and her partner did and are doing and continue to do to improve the eWebinar platform. So do check out episode 280, one of my most fascinating interviews. Melissa Kwan, 280 Evergreen Webinars is the topic. Rounding out the best of, I would be remiss if I did not point out, in addition to this episode, which is the best of our third century, pop back to episode 200 and you will get the best of our second century, and then rewind back to episode number 100, which is the very best of our first 100 episodes. So you've got this episode, which is the best of the latest and the greatest. I would go back, I would listen to episode 200, that gives you another half dozen episodes that you'll want to tune in for, and episode 100, which will give you another half dozen episodes. By the time you're done binge listening to all of these, you will give the speaking show the big, juicy kiss on the lips and hug goodbye that it deserves. Let me also say this in our final formal episode of the speaking show. Thank you, and thank you. It has been an honor and a privilege to work with amazing speakers, trainers, coaches, and consultants. We are pivoting, we are rebranding. The speaking show is becoming the selling show. But guess what? It's for the same audience. We are still going to be focused on sales and sales strategies and sales tactics and sales insights to help you get better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees as a solo expert, consultant, trainer, speaker, advisor. Focus on sales, focus on sales strategies, focus on sales success. That is what the selling show is all about. And I can't wait for you to hear the next episode where you will experience The Selling Show. That's it for now. See you next time. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.